Hi, this was going to be a bit of a long video and maybe boring for some of you, but I just thought I'd show you the process of, we have holes in the wall here, they're quite deep holes. What we also have here is, we've got cracks, like I've already started doing it so you're not going to see how it was, but down here you can see where when the overboard got taken off, and this had been painted, that's old paint, there was lines where there's old paint. So you can see here, there's like lines of paint that you've got to take off. But also what you can see is there's bits where the plaster got taken out. If you just leave it like a flake shape, when you put the plaster on, it's not going to stay on. So what you've got to do is you've got to take the paint back, the bit of paint that's chipping, scrape it back as far as it can scrape back without it being take it back, like take it not just where the chip was, not just where the paint chip was, but actually scrape it back, okay? And if you have to go into the plaster a bit, it doesn't matter, because what we need to do is try to get the plaster to stick to the existing substrate. So all this is actually okay. I sort of got the video happening too soon. That's just an old paint drip there. People often just think, oh, that won't show up, but it always does. And that's our hole that we're going to put in. That's actually an old bit of metal there. Now over here, what we've got is not going to worry about that too much. Now what I really wanted to show you was that bit. There was only one bit. That's an old nail. Yeah, over here you can't see. Basically that was just a bit of scraping some of that sticky. So now it's really important before you do the plastering work. I was going to wash it down actually. It's really important to make sure there's not dust on here, but I just realised there's not that much dust on there, not really. When you sand, it's very important, very, very, very important to get rid of all the dust. But see these holes here? So this is the flushing tape. So what you do with this, if you don't use this, you're actually going to, like, either the job's not going to look good, or it's just going to take a really long time to get it finished. So see that hole there? So basically what this flushing tape does, so when we actually put the sawdust, not the sawdust, when we put the plaster in, I'm going to be pushing it in really, really deep. But what this flushing tape does is it gives it the outside edge. So it's got like a, like a boundary. So obviously I'm going to be pushing a lot of plaster into there, but the flushing tape shows where the outside edge is, and it also, because that's quite a big hole, it actually holds the plaster in place. Because if you just big blobs of plaster into things like that, they just don't stay. They actually fall out. Like you try to work on it and it literally falls out. Just had a message, just seeing if it was important. So basically, see these holes here? A lot of people wouldn't do this. They wouldn't use flushing tape on that because this is like $19 a roll. But I'm just like, well, it's only a small area. I've just lost the end of my flushing tape. So these are the drill holes, okay? So I'm actually, and also what I'm also doing, I've just decided I'm going to go over those areas where the paint had flaked, where the paint had pulled. because there's about seven different levels of paint on here. And oh, fuck me, I just cut myself with the... I was trying to be very mindful of how I was using the... See, normally when I use a Stanley knife, I have it only like that, but for some reason, I think my friend Brad was using it, and he had it longer. So I normally have it's not a deep cut, but what that was, because someone else was using, I have it like that, so I know what sort of level I have it on, and I hold it, and I hold my fingers like that, and I know where the blade is, but just then the blade was actually at a different length than what I thought it was, because I didn't check the tool first. Now, what I'm doing here, which is something I've never done before, okay? That's what I mean, experiment away, guys. Really, experiment away. Like most things I know, I learned from experimenting. I'm getting better and better and better. Then I'm learning from, I experiment, get good at something, then I ask someone else who's good at what they do, their opinion of what I'm doing, they go, yep. And then I look at YouTube as well, and then also some people go, no, you don't need to do that. I do overboard, but see this bit of paint here that see this bit of, this is a big bit of plaster that I cut out. Not a big bit of plaster, sorry, it's a big paint chip, right? And I chipped away at the plaster. Well, it's not plaster, sorry, that's actually a big paint substrate. It's like some sort of this thick paint product that the previous owner used on all the walls. It's not even just paint, it's something else. Now, because I'm doing this, I'm going to have to build up the plaster on this wall quite a lot. But I would rather have my plaster actually stick to this wall properly, rather than in 1 or 2 or 3 years have cracks in the plaster or the plaster fall out. So personally, I think what I'm doing here means that the plaster work's going to stay. So what that is there is just it's a drill hole, and I'm just doing the substrate on the outside. Now I know that there's plenty of people that would say don't do it because all you're doing is, oh that's that, don't worry, that's a nail hole. They can say all you're doing is you mean you've got to build your plaster up. But I've already got to build it up because of this big hole down here, you see. So already the plaster levels have to come out about, I don't know, 5 or 6 millimeters. So basically, that's what I decided to do. I decided I'm going to go over all the holes, over all of the, because you have to also remember this is old horsehair and plaster. You can see the old horsehair in there, and basically it's very old. It's very old plaster. Like the walls were actually, the plaster was actually tied up with that rope. That's how old it is. Horsehair, plaster, and tied up with rope. Quite interesting. So I've just decided I'm going to go over all those holes, and even though I've got to lift out the plaster a fair bit, I don't really care. I'd rather, I'm just at that point where plastering, well I'm getting better and better and better at plastering. So I've come to realise that nothing to be scared of. I'd rather do a better job. All these holes here, I'm going to go to the camera soon. All of these holes here, seriously, what actually happens is you put the plaster in, and it literally can just pop out sometimes with these holes. I mean, that might sound funny and all, but it's really annoying. So what I was going to do now was mix up the plaster and put some plaster up for you just to show you. So this is what it looks like close up. So I've got the flushing tape on. On all the holes, which will hold the plastering. So this is your old horsehair. Pretty cool, eh? Now, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this one. I will actually see if I put it like that with the brush in front, we'll see what happens. And a bit closer up. So yeah, this is the good old flushing tape, which I learnt the hard way is absolutely crucial for plastering. Very, very worthwhile product. See this hole here? There's a big dent in there, there's a hole in there. Now by using this plastering tape, okay, by using this flushing tape, I go over the top and I'm giving it an outside. There's actually a gap under there, see? There's a hole under there. And the plaster will actually go in there, but I'll put the plaster in, but it'll actually stay in because it's got something holding it in place. I smear it and you'll see. We'll mix up the plaster in a minute and we'll actually see. Now I'm probably using more flushing tape than what's required because I actually have noticed this about myself. I often do more than what's actually required, but sometimes I think that's a better way to go about it. So you can see that I've covered it up. There's actually holes in there, okay? But because of this, I'm going to be able to push the plaster in and then it's not going to just fall out. Sometimes when you put plaster down, you actually put it on with the, I call it a spatula, but you put it on and then as you take the thing off, the bloody plaster falls out. Seriously, a blob of it just falls out onto the ground. But this flushing tape, you push it in, smush it in, and this flushing tape actually holds it in place. Plus, it gives it that barrier. Remember I was telling you about the outside barrier? Now, I probably should have mixed up the plaster before I did this live video, and also, in all honesty, you're going to see that my plastering spatula and my hawk actually got old plaster on them, which is not great. It's dry. That's me being lazy. Sometimes that's sort of sometimes where I take shortcuts, which I will admit is not good, but it's also not the end of the world. And I'll tell you why it's not the end of the world, because I've got to sand all this down, you see. So I've got a little bit of, this is compound. So this is what my builder friend says is a good one to use. It's a general compound. And it's quite expensive. It's already mixed up. It's quite expensive. This bucket was $60. I've gone through quite a few. I just spoon it out, put it on my hawk. Basically, I'm almost run out, but I get some more money tomorrow. So when I get my money tomorrow, I'll get another bucket of plaster, even though, my good Lord, I need a lot of other things. But I also have a lot of plastering I need to do, you see. So, as you can see, I haven't got much left. Now, I'm just going to wash my hands just quickly because it is a bit messy. Plastering. Now, see, this is something I didn't know. When I first started plastering, I just got out the compound bucket and I had it on my hawk, like the substrate that's holding, you know, whatever's holding it, and I would just basically take it off. But my friend said to me, no, you've got to get the air bubbles out. So you've got to go, like it's like a kneading process, okay? And you've got to actually get the air bubbles out. Now, obviously, this is much easier if I'm not doing it on an angle and doing it in front of a video. I'm not doing it squished up against a bloody bench. But can you see that every time I grab it and turn it over like that, can you see as I'm doing that, it gets the air out. Now, getting those air bubbles out, I found out, is crucial, because when you put this, and remember my hawk's got old dry plaster on it, so it's I should have scraped that off and cleaned up properly. Now, getting all these air bubbles out is really important, because when you put it on the wall, it becomes a really smooth job, whereas if you don't do it here on the hawk, see how it's becoming creamy? If you don't do it on the hawk, what actually happens is you get all these air bubbles and all the pockets in your plastering job, and then you have to overwork it when it's on the wall. And then actually what happens is you end up with this fucking, oh, it's annoying. Sometimes you end up with the plastering job. If you keep working it and it's drying, it actually does this cheddar cheese thing and you just lose it. You just lose the... So can you see that's quite creamy now? Okay, and when I got it out of the... pardon me, when I first got it out of the bucket, do you remember it being quite... You could see all the holes in it? Well, that holes was air bubbles. So I just want to see what the camera can see. So we'll do this one. We'll do this one down here. Just get the video. One day I'm going to have those selfie stick things. So basically, remember I put the flushing tape on. There's about a hole behind like this deep. Okay, because there's a drill hole there because this was the corner of the overhead. Okay, so basically just get your plaster. Try not to have too much on the outside. I'm a bit of a messy plaster. I reckon there'd be some plasters out there that would be horrified at the way I plaster because I'm a bit messy. But basically the trick is you hold the spatula quite firmly, okay? So you put it on an angle. So I've put it on an up, on a slight angle. So I put it in and then lift it up, and then I go up and around, up and around. So when I start hard, but then I go a bit soft as I go up. So I start hard, go soft, and then I go down hard. So now because I'm trying to get the plaster in that hole, okay, so I've done it differently to how I normally would because I just remember this hole's quite deep. So normally if I was just fixing up a little space, I'd go up, hard, start hard, go over light and then come down hard, but I just remember this is actually quite a big hole. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually pressing in really hard, so I'm actually pushing the plaster in, pushing it in. I'm actually using quite a lot of strength, okay? But I'm holding the spatula firm, so this is touching the wall very, very firmly. Now, behind that, sorry about that, guys. Behind this flushing, you can see the flushing moved a little bit. That's okay. Basically, obviously, I have to let that dry. Once that bit dries, then I'll put more on. So that's the thing with plastering as well. You must do it in bits. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the plaster's pushed all the way in. How would we ever know? Now, a proper professional plasterer may do this differently. Mind you, I have a builder friend who has given me lots of heads up, and I've also got some training from this guy at Bunnings who taught me to do plastering, and also this Italian guy taught me how to do rendering. So I have had some really experienced people teach me. So here we go again. I've got this hole here, and I've pushed it in quite deep, so I reckon I can see. See? You can see. Let's have a look. You can see that the hole, you can see the darkness in there. That hole's nicely filled up. See this hole here? See this hole here? Look, let's do this. Obviously, it's much harder for me just doing it with one hand. But can you see that where it's thicker? Okay, that's where the hole's been filled up. All right, and this one here. Okay, so you flush, you put your plaster on, you can see the hole's been filled up. All right, quite nicely. You can see it's quite deep. And over here, see this one here? All right, and then we're gonna go put the plaster into the actual hole part. Okay, and you can see the different shape, the different colour. So it's a bit darker where the hole was. So that really shows that the hole's been filled up with plaster. When it's dry and I do the second coat, there'll be 3 or 4 coats. That's the thing with plastering. It's not like It's not fast. But you can see that with the flushing, can you see how the flushing really helps keep it in space? Don't worry about these little bits here. And don't worry about if it's actually got ridges, okay? Don't worry about ridges ever, because you can just sand them back so easily. So there you go, guys. I hope for some of you who may think that you have to pay someone to do this, you don't. You don't. You can do it yourself. So, oh, did you even see that? Or was my head in the way? Sorry. I've actually watched YouTubes on doing things, and they set up the camera really nice, and or they even have someone else even holding the camera, and yeah, you learn quite well from it. And you know, I'm not professing to be a qualified bloody reno worker, but I have renovated lots of houses in my life, and all I'm trying to do is show you guys not to be scared to give it a go. You know, the first time I started plastering, man, I had no idea what I was doing. Okay, see that big hole? Big blob of plaster, okay? See this big hole here? Now this is a big one. Well, this is where that paper thing was. This is a really big hole, so that's why I had such a big blob of plaster, okay? And look at this, I'll show you. Big blob of plaster, quite a big blob of plaster, that's huge. All right, okay, now push. Okay, so if that's not going to fill up the hole, I don't know what will. All right, and there you go. And there's a little one there. Obviously, I'll do more. I'll go up there. I'll do that with the... But there you go, guys. I won't do the rest on the video because you're probably bored now. But see where there was holes? All right, all those big holes. All right, look at them. They're plastered up. That's a good job. That's blushing tape, thick plaster going all the way in. I'll do 2, 3, 4 coats, sand it down, then I'll paint it. Obviously, I've just got some little holes up the top to do, and that's it. So that was where the overhead got taken down, right? Can you see that? The overhead got taken down. There was big holes in the wall, blushing tape and plaster. So if that doesn't inspire you, give it a go yourself. Don't know what will. Just be mindful of doing that kneading with the plaster. That's very important. Be mindful of getting the if it's a really big hole, use base coat. That's really dries really hard and it doesn't sand. Okay, so base coat's a powder and you mix it up. Oh, you can buy it in this bucket too, but you mix it up. Base coat's really, really, really hard, and you do it for structural things. So if it's a structural wall, so base coat is actually got, I think it's got adhesive in it too, but you can't sand it. So you must do a fucking good job because you won't be able to sand it and make it look nice, okay? Be very mindful of that. My dog is just jumping on me. See, cute little Xena. But see this one here? This all-purpose compound. See, basically plastering is a 3-coat system. So you've got your base coat, I can't remember the middle one's called, sorry. Your base coat, something rather than top coat. The top coat's fine. So a professional plaster will do a top coat of plastering, and that's the really fine one that does the really neat, perfect job. For the general people like you and me, this Easy Flow all-purpose compound, or something, all-purpose compound basically, it is actually good enough for a middle and a top coat. If it's structural, you need the base coat. This is not for structural jobs. This is for filling in things like that wall, okay, which is not structural, okay. If I had a big crack in a wall, I would be using base coat first. I'd be pushing in. For example, I could use, if I was using plaster, I could use plaster in here, but I'll be using rapid set cement in there because that's cement. But if this was a plaster wall, because that's structural, because the crack goes from the bottom all the way to the top, if that was a plaster wall, I'd be using base coat because it's strong. So, yeah, general compound. I asked my builder friend, is there a cheaper way than this general compound stuff that's $60 a tub in Australia? He said no. So the only thing is that the tradies get it at a discounted rate, but they use this. This is what they use. So anyways, and I don't think you get any bigger buckets either. I was hoping I could buy a bigger bucket. So there you go. I've still got my beautiful cream plaster that I'm going to keep doing work with. I've got more than what I need for this job, so I'll go off and do a little bit more somewhere else. You can see here that the flushing tape's really holding the plaster in place. Trust me, if I didn't have that flushing tape in, that blob of cement, that blob of plaster could just fall out like a blob. It's actually really annoying. So basically you roll it on, right, and you get to here and then it just falls out. It's like, ah! So this flushing tape, trust me, is gold. And see, can you see the darkness in there? That's the hole that's been filled up. So that is a successful patch job, okay? And you'll see it as I progress. So hopefully that was good for you guys. Hopefully you learnt something, and hopefully I'm inspiring you to do these things on your own, because I only can do it because I practiced and I learnt and I wasn't scared, and I thought, what harm can I do? And then I asked questions and I learned from others, and, you know, go for it. All right, all the best. Keep well. Bye.